Hi, church family. Pastor Reagan here. Today is my day, the opportunity to share with you just an encouraging word as we head into the weekend. I hope you've had a blessed week and are looking forward to your weekend. We are looking forward to an exciting weekend in our household. You see, my son has his first baseball game Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. I'm the coach of his 14U baseball team, and so we're going to have a busy weekend of sports, and that's something we really enjoy here at our home, so we're looking forward to it. And so I just want to give you a word of encouragement. And I know this may sound like a weird word of encouragement because I just got back from a funeral service for a good friend of ours. Dee passed away this week after a short illness. And as I was there, the pastor that led the graveside service shared out of Psalms 23. And I want to read that to you, and I want you to think about this. He said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Psalms 23 is written to believers. And if we know Jesus Christ is our personal Lord and Savior, we shall not want. We don't have anything that we need that's lacking because he says that he'll provide for them. It goes on to say, "He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides my paths, and he guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." You see, my friend Dee, she's known the Lord a long time, and she has been faithful in his service, and she is going to have she is in his arms right now. It says right there at the end of Psalms 23, "I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever," and she is dwelling with her Lord and Savior right now. And I thought about her life, a life well lived for the Lord. You see, Dee and her husband, Dusty, retired to our community just over 30 years ago. And they never quit serving the Lord. They continued to be involved in the ministry and the work that he had for them to do. They really had a heart for children and young adults, and that's kind of where they found themselves serving. I remember a day when I was in my office working, and her husband, Dusty, walked into my office, and he said, "Who's teaching the young adult class right now?" We had somebody that had stepped down, and I was still praying and looking for that person that was going to step in and lead. And we talked, and I told him that I was praying and asking God to lead somebody to teach in that area. And I had been asking some people, and at that point had not been successful in finding a new Bible study leader. And he said, "Well, Dee and I'll pray about it." And he came back 2 weeks later, I guess it was, and he came into my office and he said, "We'll do it." Funny thing is, I was telling that story years later to some other people, and Dee was standing there, and she said, "Well, he never talked to me about it. He just said we were going to do it." But that was Dee. She loved the Lord, and she was willing to jump in anywhere. The funny thing about that is, even though Dee would tell you Dusty didn't ask her about that, when you watch them serve, it was incredible. What did they do? They reached so many young people for Christ. And what did they do? They showed up and did registration at when we had Mother's Day out, our Parents' Night Out. They went to community Easter egg hunts. They did so many different things to put themselves in a position where they met young people, young adults, and young families, and invited them to come to their Bible study, invited them into a relationship with Christ. And Dusty was such a wonderful man at getting other people to learn how to teach the Bible, and he would teach people, and they were so patient with people, and it was such a wonderful blessing to watch as they served. You know, I lately have been getting a lot of emails from people. Pastors all across America are talking about what's happened in the churches since COVID hit. And the reality of it is, a lot of what I'm hearing is pastors saying that their post-COVID, where we're at right now, numbers of worship attendance, people sitting in church, is about 50%. In some places less, some places more, but on average about 50% of what it was before COVID started hitting churches. You know, I understand that. I understand the need to be safe and to be careful, and I understand that people are making wise choices at this time. But I also realize that our communities need our churches to serve. And the truth of it is, our churches are the people, not the buildings, but the people. And so we need people to serve if the church is going to make an impact in the community. And we've seen some wonderful examples of churches doing that throughout this time. But the other thing about it is, as believers, as Christ followers, we have a need to serve as well. That's one of the wonderful things about my friend Dee. She loved the Lord, and she was willing to get in there. She would dress up silly to work with kids and have an impact in their life. She would just do whatever it took. She wasn't worried about if it felt silly or looked silly. If it was a way that she could reach kids, she would do it. And she didn't care about the fact that she'd have to sit out in the sun to do registration at a community Easter egg hunt. She would do it if it gave her the opportunity to reach more young families for Christ. And as I sat there today listening to the message, I thought, this is what a life well lived for Christ looks like. So I just want to encourage you. As I think about Dee and Dusty retiring and moving to this community over 30 years ago, they could have retired and lived off their retirement income and traveled and done a lot of other things, but they decided that they were going to invest in their community and seeing people come to know Christ. And I just want to encourage you, regardless of where you're at in your work career, whether you're still working, whether you're retired, I want to encourage you that if the Lord is your shepherd, that you should not be in want, and you should want the opportunity to serve those that He brings into your life. I am so thankful for Dee and the ministry that she had in my life and how she and her husband have touched me. And I want to encourage you to have that same kind of reflective attitude in your life. I want to be that person to other people. So Sunday, we're going to have the opportunity to gather and worship. Some of you I know need to continue to meet online, and for that, we're excited that we have the opportunity to provide online services. But many of you have the opportunity to be in worship, and I look forward to seeing you there. So thank you so much for the opportunity to serve you, and I look forward to serving together as we continue to follow God's leadership in reaching our community for the cause of Christ.